Hey everyone, let's start healing. I'm Adrienne Murchison, and welcome to episode 96 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. Well, I am so grateful to bring you this episode of Let's Start Healing. My guest today is Andrea Theo-John. If you're in the Atlanta area, many people know Andrea. She is a marketing communications expert. And we're only going to touch on that a little bit because this podcast is about spirituality, but it's also about how we incorporate our spirituality, the God inside of us, our divinity into our everyday lives, what that thread looks like. And Andrea shares some of that in our conversation and what that looks like through her work and her purpose in life and her desire to be of service to other people and her relationship with God ultimately. One of the things that comes up in our conversation early on is how Andrea talks about how she's a little bit at a crossroads and how she's been feeling something that's hard to describe in her spirit. And we had this conversation a few weeks ago. And from then to now, I feel that way. I'm at a crossroads. I have been experiencing some very, very interesting things in my life this week. And it definitely correlates to my relationship with God and what God would have me do. And it's just crazy. I woke up a week ago. I'm coming to you on a Friday right now. And I woke up a week ago on Friday morning and early Friday morning. I woke up about 4:15 and I was feeling great. I thought I should get up and go to the gym before work. That's what I thought I should do. I had the energy for it. I felt good. But the other part of me was like, well, you really have a few more hours before you have to get up. So you could just lay here. And so that's what I did. And I woke up a couple of hours later and I was in a lot of physical pain. And I thought, what the heck is going on? At first, it was creeping in. And I thought, it's a good thing I'm getting a massage tomorrow. That's what I thought. It's a good thing I'm getting a massage tomorrow from my good friend, Gia Johnson, also known as Genesthesia. And but then the pain got worse and worse and worse. And then I started feeling nauseous. And I mean, I am not going to go into all of the details, but I was able to discover what that was all about. It is something that is easily addressed, but it has given me one hell of a week. It has had me worrying about my physical health and how I'm taking care of myself, which I've been doing pretty good, I thought, since the first of the year. And I have been, but it's had me thinking about, well, is there something wrong with me? And do I have a serious illness? It had me really just scared, for a few minutes about this kind of thing. And I'm bringing this up because earlier today, I was thinking about, gosh, maybe 2017, I would say 2016, 2017. I remember one Saturday, I had been out all day and I was on my way home that night and that evening, early evening, and I was stopping at Trader Joe's. When I got out of the car, I felt dizzy. I felt, I can't think of that word. I cannot think of the word. When you feel dizzy, vertigo. I felt vertigo. But I felt more than that. It was super scary. I went into Trader Joe's. I came out. I called some friends of mine that live nearby and I was talking to them. And I remember them talking to me, one of my friends talking to me and, asking me a lot of questions. And the question came up, could I be having a stroke? And I said, oh, no, 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 because I'm way too healthy for that. No, no, no. That is not something that's going on. I don't know what this is, but that's not what's going on. And I went to the doctor a couple of days later, and the doctor, he surmised it was something that I can't remember, and it never happened again. And I'm saying that because in this case, because I had such a mindset, our minds are so important to our health and well-being. And I remember how I just dismissed that, which I think was a very healthy thing to do, and it was accurate. It was accurate for that time. And so what was going on with me last week and this past week, I have been more concerned. And it's not that I shouldn't be concerned. I should be concerned and mindful about my health, and I am. But I also have to be strong and positive about what my health is, and about how my health is. And I'm saying that because I think that's important for all of us, no matter what is going on with us, no matter if we have been diagnosed with a serious illness. It is so important for us to have a positive mindset. And I've just been aware of my own thoughts this week. And one of my friends who, let me tell you something. One of my girlfriends said to me this week, you have a tribe. And um, that has really moved me, because it's been obvious by my friends who have shown up for me this week in ways that I have needed, if just to show love, if just to be beside me, while I'm questioning what the heck is going on, while I have been in pain. It's been so important. And one of my friends shared with someone else what was going on with me. So then that person had an opinion about what was going on with me. And I was aware of how I don't really want any negative input about what was going on with me. Not that there was negative input, because there wasn't, but I would like to um, keep my circle tight about what the thing is. Because when other people have an opinion, then they're coming into your universe and your atmosphere, and that energy can have an effect. And I actually am thinking about also I'm thinking about two people that I'm aware of when they were going through medical illness that was super serious, and how they didn't share it with many people, because then you have all that energy coming in about what other people think. And it's just so important, our mindset. And I can take giant steps backwards sometimes with my mindset, but thank God I regroup and can move forward. So I hope that this all makes sense. And I just want us to be protective and mindful and self-aware of what we think about ourselves, what we think about our well-being, and who we let in, and how protective we are about the energy around us. And even earlier today, I had such an epiphany. I thought, oh my God, if somebody could see me right now, they think I was a little loopy, because I have this standing appointment. I should say, let me put it this way. I have a standing meeting with a group of people every week. And the meeting can be fine. Like it was fine today. It was fine. Or it could be not so fine, which isn't really that bad when it's not so fine. But it brings me such awareness of how I don't want to be doing the thing that is associated with this meeting, the thing that's connected to this meeting. And I have to be vague, but hopefully you will understand what I'm saying. But when I finished this meeting, I mean, it seems like every time I'm always just sitting in thought after this meeting. I'm always just sitting in an awareness of this is not what I want, not what I want, not what I want. And this is what I had to say out loud to myself today. And the reason I am continuing to do what I don't want in this particular situation is because for a period of time, I'm committed to it. And I must honor my commitment. So I'm saying to myself, I start talking in Spanish and I don't even speak Spanish. I don't even speak Spanish, yet I start talking to Spanish to my dog Shiloh. And I'm just saying, this is not what I want. No, 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 no. This is not where I'm supposed to be. Not with this. No. And I'm just going on and I'm elaborating. And it was a good exercise because it was helping me to be aware of where I am, which helps me to surrender it to God. Let God handle it. But I don't want to deny to me where I am with this particular thing. That for me is all about healing. It's all about healing. It's all about staying whole and not being in denial. So when I come past this thing, I'll be more specific. I'll be much more specific. But I wanted to share this with you. Hopefully, this all makes sense. And let me share a little more about Andrea. Oh my gosh, she is such a loving spirit, such a loving spirit. And she's so cool. She's so relaxed and laid back and wise. She has a lot of gems that she just casually puts out there about her spirituality and her understanding of God that I find to be so wise. We've had conversations in the past. She was actually on episode 20 of Let's Start Healing. So please go back and listen to that. And also, I will try to share a little video that she did with me with my podcast because it was early on in Let's Start Healing. Andrea talks about how she came through the pandemic. She talks about a medical issue that she actually experienced, a new marriage, navigating that. And I'm looking forward to you hearing what she has to share. So let's get started. Let's meet her and let's start healing. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you.
It's so great to have you here. We did a podcast together early on, Let's Start Healing, and that was so inspiring. And I'm just really excited that you're back.
Thank you. Thank you. Always good to be here. And I love chatting with you, and your podcast is fantastic.
Thank you. I want to start out asking you some of the healing questions that I love to ask.
Okay.
Well, first of all, how are you in your spirit, today and lately? How do you feel in your spirit?
In my spirit, honestly, I'm in just a weird, funky place, to be honest. It's kind of funky. And I keep thinking like, is it a mixture of, because I'm 41, I'm going to be 42. And I keep wondering, is this feeling that I have, is it like a midlife crisis thing, as they so call it? Or is it just like, a little entrepreneur burnout feeling, maybe, or is it just a change in seasons of my life and, something different's coming, but it's always that little strange struggle period, between transitioning from where you were to where you're going. That's where I am. I think I'm in that place of something different's coming, but I don't know what. And I think the task right now is to figure it out. So it feels a little unsettled, but my best comfort is knowing, like, no matter what happens, everything's always good. Everything's always fine. And all things work out for our favor, right? So ultimately, I think it's good that this is here, this change, transition to something, whatever else is here. But that's the feeling. It's that uncomfortable, change of a feeling. I have to remember we're on podcast and not do like my normal hand gestures and body movements, because you guys can't see that.
Well, tell folks what you do. You're in marketing, and tell folks what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner for 6 years now, and my business is the ADS Agency. So it's a marketing and branding firm. We help small businesses figure out how to move through this world. So navigating that weird world of branding, a lot of people feel so elusive about. It feels like a weird, funky place for them to figure out, because they're like, I don't know what to do with this. They just know I need a logo and I need a website and I need colors and some kind of messaging maybe, but how to put it all together. A lot of people really struggle, especially the small businesses, with that. And so that's our little sweet spot. Business to business. Businesses are the kinds of businesses we work with. Those who service other businesses, they tend to be professional service oriented. So, tax firms and staffing firms and people who work for airports and do airport business and big government contracts. And then a couple of personal branders and all that, which are really fun in the mix. So yeah, that's who we work with so far.
And the feeling that you were saying that you have, is that something that came up after the first of the year, or you were having it before the holidays?
Kind of before. It's been lagging through, I would say, like the last half of last year. And it's just been lagging through, and it's just been sitting in my spirit, like something needs to change, but I don't know exactly what. And so it's just been kind of sitting there, and it's just one of those things you can't ignore. Like, you have to explore it. So I've just been open to that change. What's coming, I don't know, but just trying to be more attuned and listening to that signal, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
And trying to be open to that new change, whatever it is.
And maybe that's all that you're supposed to do at this time, is to just be patient and be open.
Yeah.
And then, that is building on the awareness that you're going to have when it actually comes.
Yeah, maybe so. It messes with you a little bit, because, you think midlife, and who knows if you're really midlife these days, because we live so much longer, but you just think this is the point where you're supposed to have it all together, quote unquote, and have all the answers, but I don't think that's true anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think it's cool to change, depending on what's going on. So yeah, definitely open.
Wow. Well, so share, if you will, what God is to you. Like, when do you feel the Spirit of God most? And how would you characterize your knowing of God for you?
I know God is a connector. He is an entity that exists within every living thing. The trees and the leaves out there, and the wind that blows. And little Shiloh here, munching on his goodies down on the floor, your cute little pup. Through every living being, it's a connector, and it represents the light in all of us. There's a light, there's a dark, and God is the light that connects us all, and it flows through everything. So the presence of God is always accessible. It's always there. And that's a comfort, and also it can be a good reminder, because when you're in a space, like even a funky little space like I'm in now, it's a good kick in the pants reminder sometimes, like you you're better than this. You're a child of God. You're called for excellence. You're called for great things. And so I think that's the push and the pull that God is. He's always reminding you, though I love you how you are, and also I'm calling you to greater because I already know who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing on my behalf. I don't know if that's the best answer, but that's how I think of God.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because for me, it's that a lot of times we don't know how great we are. And, God obviously knows that. And it is about us living in our greatness.
And he's a divinity. I mean, he is the divine in us. And so
yes, exactly.
Inside each of us, even that we do still all need each other. And I think that's the connectedness piece that we feel, that God creates, that pull around us to know that we are a community. We're not an island. We need each other, and so that divinity within us is that those great things, those gifts, those talents, those natural proclivities other people don't necessarily have that they need. And likewise, they've got probably the opposite stuff that we don't have that we need. And that is the spirit of collectiveness and community God intended, for us to be interdependent upon each other. And so I think that's part of the beauty of who he is.
Yeah. Do you think that you've always known this in your spirit? Maybe not with those words, but that basic idea has always been a part of you?
I think it took me a while to learn that, because we're good old Southern Christian people. We went to church all the time, and there's Vacation Bible School. And
where'd you grow up?
Between South Carolina and Florida, and my parents are in Alabama now. And so, and my dad pastors a church now, although it's very important to know that we did not grow up as PKs, as people call it, preacher's kids, because he didn't actually get his first church until I was in college. So, but still, that was a part of our upbringing. And I will say that being a part of that lifestyle of church, kids don't want to go to church, but if you're made to go, and it's not like today where they make it, a lot of the non-denominational churches make it so fun and it's very contemporary and kids want to go. It's because their friends are there and they're going to do something fun and cool and awesome. It was not like that. It was like a lecture, you're going to sit there.
I remember.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I grew up Catholic, but still.
Similar.
Yes.
So, there's not so much there's not too many appealing things about church other than the other kids there. And so you grow up with it, but I think there comes a time where even though you're exposed to it, you as a person at some point accept God and encounter God in your own way. And I think that evolves throughout time. So even though as a young child, there's a presence of God that you don't even know, there's a childlike knowing of what you think God is. And you have a protection of God around you, even though you don't even realize it or know it. People are praying for you, your parents praying for you, your grandparents pray for you. There's a protection created around that feeling that you don't even know yet. And so, but when you get older and you encounter God for yourself, that kicks off a whole new relationship. And I think that's unique for every person.
Yeah, that is so true. For me, because my mother was so in love with God and Jesus, and I love what she loved, and I don't even know what came first, what she instilled, her and my father, or, just my inherent love. But yes, as I grew up, especially the intuitive things that are connected to God that would be a little disturbing, because I thought, what is this? What's going on? It was making me uncomfortable. And then the older I got and the relationship that I had with God, I started trusting different things, and it became a more intimate form of communication.
Yeah. Intimate is a great word. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when do you most feel the presence of God?
When do I most feel the presence? I would say it depends. Sometimes it's just meditating, so definitely during quiet, intentional times, so when we get very still and intentionally just try to shut our mind off so that we can hear him. Then is when you can feel him for me. So meditating, quiet, stillness of morning, and before everything else wakes up, that's a good time to connect. It could be also in the opposite of that, moments of extreme chaos, in the midst of stress and loud environments, and even in the middle of the most heightened arguments and everything else that could be going on, the craziest of times, even then you can have a moment where you feel God. And I call that a touch of wisdom too, so that's God speaking out and calling you for stillness on the inside so that you can know the right direction to go in those moments. It's like a peace and a stillness that speaks to you amidst all of that and pulls you forward in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that is also a great feeling when you are not sure what to do and you feel that feeling of stillness and calmness and peace. That's God. Or you can say some may say the Holy Spirit. It's all the same. They're all a part.
I've been definitely taking, since the first of the year, I've always meditated and prayed, but I've been really spending a lot of time doing that in the morning, like just taking the time that I need. Mm-hmm. And it has made such a difference. And I can see the difference big time if I'm under stress, or if I've done that and then I feel stressed. I feel separated from that stress, like you said, like a calmness, versus if I haven't done that, then I, feel that angst inside me. Yeah.
And you internalize it more and it affects you more versus, like you say, you kind of have like this hedge of protection a little bit.
Yes.
Where you recognize what the situation is, but you also don't have to personally, physically partake in it. It's just you have a nice barrier of protection and a wisdom about it all.
Yeah. You're a person who really does a lot for people, I believe, through your work. Mm-hmm. How do you think God fits in with that? I'm trying to get to, what do you think God calls you to do for yourself and for others through your work?
That's a great question, because I literally have been thinking about this quite a lot lately. So I do think I have unique skills and talents, abilities, gifts. Not that no one else has them, but the situations I'm placed in are situations where no one else there has them. And so I often am making the decision, is this where I'm supposed to step in and help? That's the messed up feeling, because no one else is there who's going to do it. And so if you don't do it, who else will? I think those are clear, obvious situations where God's saying they need you, help them. And that's just as simple as, like I was saying before about the business, and people struggle with what to do with themselves, and they struggle with color and, what do I put on this website, and how do I say it, or how do I revamp it because it looks so old now. Social media, they don't know what to put there. They feel weird. They're like, how do I put myself out there, put my business out there, but not also feel narcissistic about it? People feel that all the time. There's a lot of psychology that goes into this too. So it's helping people, especially if they happen to be Christian or spiritual based. It's very weird for them to put themselves out there, especially if they are like the face of their business, and not feel
vain.
Vain is a great word. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Vain, narcissistic, all of that. They feel very weird doing that. Even putting their picture on something is weird because they just aren't used to it. And so it's a lot of coaching them through why seeing a face is important, the connection people make with it, how it's really not about them. It's really about how they serve others, and them, giving a way for people to connect with them puts their customers at ease. You have to talk them through all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's a great way to think about what I do. Is the messaging, branding piece of it all matters, because that's a way that we're telling the world how we can help them as a business, as a service, as a personal brand. Who we are and how we can help others is important, and that messaging matters. How we image ourselves matters. People say all the time it's such a funny way to think about this, but you know how people are always like, I don't care what people think about me. I don't care. Who cares what people think? And that's a great little attitude to have sometimes. But truth be told, we do care, and there's
Right.
a reason to care, because what people think of us becomes our brand.
Right.
And it becomes how they even recommend us to others, if they ever recommend us to others, if they ever use us. So all that shaping of packaging ourselves and putting ourselves out there matters a lot to our livelihoods, to how successful our business is. And so if we can help business owners wrap their heads around that and learn to position themselves in a way that gets them business in the future, that means they're on a trajectory to grow.
Right.
And that's us helping a business blossom. When that business blossoms, they can touch other lives and, take on employees, and that helps the economy of the community that they're in. So I'm a very big believer in the power of small business and a community. And so us helping small businesses means they grow, they help the community grow. And in our small way, we're helping communities grow and businesses grow and families be uplifted and all of that. So that's the cool side of what we do.
I was thinking about, as you're talking, something that I've realized. I mean, this is not new, but I just had that last month, that moment of, I get it, where people remember how you make them feel more than they remember what you said. Mm-hmm. And I would think that would play a lot into marketing.
Yes, emotions matter. So
Yeah.
People definitely use emotions. And if you don't believe that, just look at the latest political campaigns of some of the last few years. The emotions they're trying to stir, clearly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know what your superpower is, for lack of a better word, when it comes to who you are as a person, as a human being, as a spiritual being?
I always felt like, and this took me a while to really consider what it was, but I still think this is true and accurate. I think the overarching gift is creating order out of chaos. So a lot of the situations we step in look messy. They're a mess. Some of the last corporate roles I've been in, I often thought to myself, like, why am I even here? Why did they pull me into this space? And I often feel like that in so many spaces. And that's one of those moments where you're just like, you remember God puts you in places for a reason. And so even though you think you shouldn't be there, maybe other people think you should be there, but you're there, and it is for a purpose and for a reason in that moment. And so go back to your original question.
What your superpower is. Yeah. Order out of chaos.
Yes. Yeah. I remember one of those latest corporate roles was about that. And it was like a merger and acquisition, multi-million dollars. And that's always chaotic, because you're changing brands and you're merging worlds and merging teams, which is a very messy little process. And I was tasked to help lead one of those. And, there are 17 different work streams and departments and all kinds of people and feelings to consider aside from the marketing, the branding, the communications. It can be very easy to feel overwhelmed and not know what direction to go in that space. And I think that's one of my strong suit gifts, is being able to walk into a situation like that and create clarity, see what's there, see what's needed, and say, after a moment of just marinating in it all, this is the path forward, and here's what we do next, and here's the timeline, and here's how we do it. I love that. I think that's just whether it's the right answer or not that I come up with. It's always
there is no wrong answer. It sounds like.
Yeah, there probably isn't a wrong answer, and people need that direction, because otherwise, left to their own devices, they'll come up with something, but they would rather not, and they'd rather it come from someone like me who's in marketing communications. And the order out of chaos thing, I think, is great, and also the ability to polish and package is also a strong suit. Even when I was little, I didn't even know what marketing was, nothing at all. I didn't even know about that until grad school at all. No one around me did it. But, just the way I put together reports and how it was different from everyone else's and the eye you seem to have. And none of that counts for anything when you're in school. Not really. I mean, it gets like side kudos and all that. But those are all little extra skills, writing and all this creative writing. All that comes together uniquely in marketing. So, yeah, when people...
You get to be creative.
Yeah. Yeah. People used to ask me that when I was growing up. Like, they always ask little kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I just didn't have that tangible answer for a long time. And before then, I just knew I'm going to be in beautiful places, surrounded by beautiful people, doing beautiful things. That's just really what I thought. But that could be a myriad of things.
You didn't know what that looked like.
I had no
but
idea.
You knew that much.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, marketing can definitely be in that space of beautiful people and things and places.
When it comes to your life and your spirituality and just you in totality, would you say that you're a healer or a seeker or both?
I would say 80% seeker at this moment, 20% healer. I think their capacity to heal is always there, depending on the situation and who you're with and all of that and what's needed. And so in this moment, I would call it 80% seeking because that's just the feeling I have right now, in this kind of weird transition-y space I was telling you about. I feel like I'm on seeking mode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say 8% seeker.
Well, one of the reasons I was looking so forward to talking with you is because you had made a comment on Facebook a while ago just about coming through the pandemic and the physical changes. And I'm always just so drawn to that whenever I read it because I feel like I changed so much as a result of the pandemic physically.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I just...
You look the same.
Oh, well, thank you. I only gained I'm not even going to say how many pounds.
Okay.
But I am back to my running routine and, getting physically right. But I was reading this one story actually where this woman gained like 70 pounds. She was just talking about what that experience was like in terms of going back around the people that she knew, that she worked with. And the last few years, I'm just not the same person I was.
I don't think you're alone. I don't think you're alone. I do not think you're alone. Because we were all sitting at home and working from home and it's so easy to then DoorDash was working, so now we get everything delivered to us. Still using DoorDash and Instacart and all those things.
Yeah.
And people were drinking from home. They were doing everything from home, and not moving around very much either. And that was the easy place to fall into a bit of depression too, because it's a lot of change.
Right.
And if you're a people person, then you're told not to be around people for a while, then that is kind of definitely a downer for the extroverts and the people who need people.
Right.
And Zoom just doesn't quite cut it.
No, it's not the same.
No one liked it. They were like, oh, and now we're forced to sit there in front of a computer even more than we were doing before. And some people had it worse than others, depending on what corporation they might be working with. Or, some people had rules like your eyes have to be looking at the screen.
Oh my gosh.
You can't even look away. You got to be on camera.
That is stressful.
I mean, really. So it's no wonder people, gain weight and all kinds of stuff during the pandemic. It's no wonder because it was a stressful time. It was a lot of moments of change. I heard a comedian the other day talk about how the pandemic was like the be careful what you wish for pandemic. Because people before the pandemic were like, oh, well, I wish I could spend more time with my kids. I wish I had more time to spend with my kids. Magic genie pandemic gets thrown. And you're like, well, be careful what you wish for. You got all the time in the world you want with your kids now.
Exactly.
And, I think that too, since we're talking about spirituality and God, I think the pandemic was God's way to make the world remember he's here. And we don't have all the control we think we have or want to have in our world that we feel that we've got. I mean, we're a little bit control freakish with
for sure. Yeah.
We could go on Amazon and, oh, this thing, it's going to be here tomorrow or even later today, depending on what it is. And we're so materialistic. And I know everyone, and I'm guilty because I was buying up everything on Amazon during the pandemic too. But I think it was definitely God's way of making the world stop for a moment.
Right.
And remember, we don't control it all. And he ultimately has a say. And that, I think, was powerful. I think it did make a lot of people pause. So it was good in a lot of ways. And then also, for the pounds and stuff, maybe not so good.
And I think it led a large percent of people to reevaluate their life. Mm-hmm. I think, which plays into what you just said.
Yeah.
I think there's been a collective change, even though as we can see on the political front, things are as crazy as ever. But I think in the real world, when you get down to it, that a lot of people have shifted and reset in terms of what's important to them. And we can also see that in the business world. I mean, you could just see it with the restaurant industry and how they're struggling to find workers.
Yeah, that's true.
And the remote working, because we know that so many people don't want to go back into the office.
They don't want to go back in the office. And they're also reevaluating, like to your point, reevaluating their lives. And they're saying, is this really,
exactly,
is this job I've got the thing, like my legacy? Is it really what I'm supposed to be doing? Is it really my calling? And most people, I think, if they're honest with themselves, they would be like, maybe this isn't
right.
it.
Right.
And they're quitting, and a lot of people quit their jobs during the pandemic, and they didn't come back during the workforce, to the workforce during the pandemic, and they're just figuring it out. I think a lot of people are figuring it out.
Yeah. So can you share a little about what your experience was?
Yes. So I was telling you about my hair was horrible. So
which looks very pretty,
as
it always has.
Thank you. But I promise you, like, as it is today, this is like, I want to say it's 10% of my hair, but it's probably 25%. It's probably 30% of what I had before. And this all just happened. And I can't say it was all directly during the pandemic, because it kind of happened this past summer. So we were kind of like rolling out of the pandemic, even though it's still sort of around. During the pandemic, let me tell you about that first. So during that, I think I had some of that pandemic 15 or 10 pounds, whatever, probably had some of that. And then my sister got on this program for fitness, and she was like dropping weight, but it's a bunch of like all the right stuff you should do, lean proteins and lots of water and veggies and working out. I mean, you can't help but lose weight with something like that. And so she dropped like 60 pounds and on that. I know it was crazy.
Oh,
and,
my.
So she was telling everybody, come on and get on it with her. And so I did that. And so at this point, I gained all that weight back, but
I don't even know what to say to that, because you look beautiful as always.
Thank you. But I will say, what that taught me was that, you think you look good before, and I always feel like I'm pretty cute. And
yes, you are.
I feel like I am, but we don't always see ourselves, and so, and that program is really big about pictures, like take pictures, especially when you're like so relatively close to your goal. It's hard to see incremental change. And so, but if you take pictures, you can compare, 2 months ago to today. And there is a big difference in pictures that you don't necessarily see, and it's not the same as our cute selfie pictures that always look the same.
Right.
We're going to always make sure it's a good
angle. And I'm like, I want her back.
Yes. Oh, I know. So, yeah, I had the fitness journey during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then coming out of it this past summer, and I just gotten married the year before. And after that, we were trying to get pregnant. I mean, we were trying, and because technically, I guess we could have gotten pregnant before, but we just weren't trying not to get pregnant until we were married. And then we just thought, okay, well, we'll just let all the guards down and we'll get pregnant. And it didn't happen yet. And it still hasn't happened yet. And so, and we're older. So we were like, okay, well, maybe this is going to be a little more intensive than it would be if we were in our 20s or something. And so that's why there was like for me, a real health focus. And I was like, okay, well, if we're really going to be sincere about this, then what I have to do is really focus on optimizing my health. And that's why, I just started getting checked out and everything. And I just hadn't been doing that in the entrepreneur world. Like I didn't have health insurance because I was like, why do I need it? And, in my mid 30s, I was like, I'm fine. I'm good. Nothing's wrong with me, and health insurance costs so much and all this. And I just didn't have it back then. And also didn't think it would affect, didn't think it would affect me so much. And anyway, so being married, I had insurance and I was like, okay, well, let's go get everything checked out since we're trying. And that's when my doctor was like, your iron and your hemoglobin is so ridiculously low. Like, we're going to hospitalize you if you don't go get you need a blood transfusion yesterday. And
no kidding.
I know, because it was that, they were like, this is dangerous low. And
were you feeling okay?
I had stuff like I had like heart palpitations and things here and there, but I always brushed it off because anytime you ever go get it checked out, A, it's never going on when you're in the doctor's office.
Right.
And then B, even if it is, they're like, what can they do about it? Nothing. So I always felt like it's just there. There's nothing anybody can do about it. So I just never thought about it really much again. I just thought it was just something that happens here and there, and there's nothing anyone can do. And I had been working out. I'd been like prepping for that wedding. I was running like 4 miles a day.
Yeah.
I was like, go, go, go. You gotta get in this dress, girl.
I do understand.
Yeah. So I was really in my best little fitness for that wedding. And then after that, I was like, whew, I can relax, enjoy my married life. So I had to get a blood transfusion. That was like in the summer. And then I had to get this surgery for polyps and stuff. And all this is just to optimize for pregnancy. And
blood transfusion, meaning all of the blood was transfused?
Oh, no, they like give you 2 pints of blood. And so similar to like if you gotten shot and needed,
okay. So you needed more blood. You needed more blood. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And what's so funny is like, how you were saying, could you tell that you weren't like feeling well or something? I guess I've been low for so long. Like I felt normal.
Right.
It was normal to me to feel like that. And I was like, oh, wow, what's going to happen when I get this transfusion? Like, am I going to feel like Superwoman? I'm going to be like amazing. Like,
so what happened?
So it wasn't like that, like a light switch, like, woo, I feel great. But it was just little things I noticed. And this is what is so interesting. I'm like so grateful for these little things now. But little things I noticed, like I could go up the stairs and not be winded just going up the stairs. Mm-hmm. Whereas before I was like, dang, I'm real out of shape,
Yes.
So that was actually like a hemoglobin oxygen thing. And other things like being able to work out and run longer and farther and not feel like you're dying, 10 steps in.
Oh, my.
All those things I just chalked up to, I must be really out of shape. I got to work harder. Everything I just thought, I'm out of shape. I got to work harder.
Right.
Because I'm winded and blah, blah. It just means I'm pitiful. Like, get yourself together.
Oh, my goodness. But now that's changed.
Now it's different. Like, I'm so amazed how much easier it is to run. We're about to do the hot chocolate run on Sunday here in Atlanta.
Oh. And how long is that?
It's like a 5K.
5K. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they've got a 15K version too. But I'm just doing normal 5K. One of these days, maybe I'll feel so compelled to do like a 15K or longer, but I'm really good with the 5Ks right now. So, but even things like that, like I can test myself and time myself, and the time and the evidence is there. Like the times are so much faster. Not like I'm a super runner and like I'm going to win a medal, but just compared to me before, it's like way better and so much easier. And I was like, wow, now I can see why people like running and not hate it like I did before.
Do you think that you had been experiencing that? You had been in need of that transfusion for like a year or more, or?
Probably so. probably still, like, I always knew I had low iron, but that's similar to like how I felt about palpitations and stuff. Like, that's just something that was kind of always there. And iron pills are nasty and they suck, and no one wants to take them. And so, I just didn't. But nothing. I was never, of all the people who've ever checked me, I was never to the point of like hospitalization where it was so low. Somebody was like, you need to be in the hospital. It was never that. So I just always thought, okay, well, this is just my norm, and I feel fine. So
I'm so glad that you're okay, and that's been taken care of and addressed.
Yes. But to your other question, so with that little surgery, that was like, even though it's small, they're just scraping out polyps. They had to put you under general anesthesia for it, and I can't even remember a time where I've been under general anesthesia, but I didn't think much about it because you're just going to sleep. It's not a big deal. And so, and a month later, my hair started falling out.
I have heard of that before.
You did?
Yes, I've definitely heard of anesthesia. Did I say that right?
Anesthesia, yeah. We're not health professionals.
Right? I'm like, did I say the word right? But in any case, I have heard of that taking out hair. And I even worried about that with the surgery that I had several years ago.
I hadn't heard of it. And I know people who've done surgeries like that, and it's never happened to them. So I didn't connect it to. I all kinds of stuff was running through my head. Like, is this cancer? Like, what do I have going on? I didn't know what was going on. And I was looking up everything. Of course, I'm like, just research stuff to death.
Yes.
I was like, what is it? And that's when that came up, that people said, yeah, it could be that general anesthesia. And I was like, dang, if I knew that, I probably would have said no to that little surgery.
It's so funny because I know that, it's a serious thing to get anesthesia. And if I'm having a procedure or something, my girlfriend, she'll be the same way if she has to have a procedure. We're like looking forward to it, like we're looking forward to that little drug, But it is a really serious, it's a serious thing. That's why they spend time with you beforehand, because some people don't wake up from it. You know?
I try not to think about that. But.
Yeah. Well, it's past now, so we know that everything is okay. But
yeah, my hair was just coming out, and I've never experienced that before. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. It was just coming out in clumps in the shower, just touching
that's scary.
Stuff would come out, and like a whole little handful, a whole little fistful. And I didn't feel like I had that much hair to begin with. I have lots of hair in my 20s, and then, over time it gets less and less and less. And I was like, dear Lord, I don't have that much hair to go. Like, I just can't. At some point I was like, I'm going to be bald in a minute. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go in the wig world and I'm to figure out wigs and, like everything. I literally have a couple wigs right now in the closet just because I was like, I'm going to have to try this out, But thankfully, like, you can't see it now because I slicked it down, but I have like little hairs. They're like this long, like an inch long.
It looks so pretty, though. Your hair looks really pretty.
Thank you.
It does. And I know it's a scary thing. I think we all, especially I think all women of color, for the most part, we go through so much with our hair and just being sensitive. And it just seems like we go through phases where it does come out, not for that reason, but for other reasons. And
I was thinking, like, am I stressed? Because I used to think that I don't know why I thought this, but I really used to think I'm not one of those people that get stressed. I didn't feel like a stressful person. I just didn't think stress affected me. And it wasn't until I moved here to Atlanta with the job that I had that literally pushed me into entrepreneurship. So you're
like, oh, this is what stress is.
This is stress. Oh, yes, I can get stressed. Yes.
Yeah.
And it can physically affect you. It's amazing. Like, I just never thought I'd be in that place where it's something. Because I always just live like that. I just always had that feeling like everything's always going to be fine. Everything's always good.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Well, that's a wonderful mindset to have even when we're under stress, because we can forget it. That's really a wonderful mindset.
It is. But I mean, it really was a thing where, like, well, everything's not going to be fine as long as you're here. Like, you got to get out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's when I learned, like, you're not immune to stress. Stress can hit you too. And so I was thinking, like, is this stress? Is it what? Yeah, I think I figured it out, and that's good. So it's just in this place which I think all of us should be. And ironically, in the new year, I think we're really all hyped up about this. New year, new me as usual.
Yeah.
But I do think, especially as the world is emerging from the pandemic, this is such a great time to focus on being as healthy as possible in all facets possible.
Yeah.
Mentally, spiritually, physically, all those things.
Absolutely.
Because it's just so important, not only for ourselves, but the people around us. It affects the people around us. It affects the way we perform. It affects the legacy that we leave even, so it's so critical for us to focus in on it for ourselves, but also to make sure the people around us are doing it too when we know they're not focusing on it.
Yeah. If anything we've learned in these last 3 years, it's that life is short. We've always known life is short, but I think we have a greater sense of how short life is, and that it can be, people have passed away off, like, from one day, they're here one day, they're just fine. And then we think they're just fine, and then the next day they're gone.
I know, that's crazy.
This morning I was on a Zoom call, a weekly Zoom call, and I was feeling stress, and my vision, I've never had like a full-blown migraine, but what will happen is my vision will start getting blurry, like it's on the way to that. I took some Advil, and it doesn't happen that often. I'll get headaches, but not like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is ridiculous. I should not be experiencing this. And I ended up walking over to the bank because I knew I needed to go to the bank, and it's right here. And I thought that might help my eyes to clear up. And so they did, like maybe about 5 minutes after I got back, they were clear. But, I just had to distract myself from what was on my mind, go outside, get some air.
Yeah. Like almost like calm yourself, like how you calm yourself out of an anxiety attack almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Focus on something else.
Yeah. And plus I had work to do, so it's not like I could not have my eyes.
Yeah,
I needed my vision,
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And then also makes you appreciate your eyesight when it comes back. Like,
for sure.
Thank God it's back.
For sure. I've been in gratitude on so many things, just not wanting to take anything for granted. So you got married in 2021? Time is going by just too fast.
I know. Yeah. It was 2021.
Were you guys together for a while before you got married?
Yes. I knew him. He was one of the first people I met when I moved to Atlanta 7 years ago. And so I've known him all that time. But we didn't officially start dating until maybe 2 years before we got married. But we were seeing each other. I don't know what all these dating terms are, but we were going on dates before that, before we were an exclusive couple officially. But yeah, we knew each other for a while. And then during the pandemic, we knew we were going to get married, but we had not even actually gotten engaged yet. But since the pandemic hit, and where I was in one of those little apartments in Smyrna, and my little lease was coming up, and I just was so done with those apartments. I was like, I cannot stay here. It was all supposed to be temporary anyway. And I ended up staying in Atlanta. I didn't think I was going to still be here necessarily because I was supposed to be somewhere else. So yeah, that little lease was coming up, and I was like, I'm just not going to be here. Either I'm going to find my own little townhome that I want, which is why I love these places. I'm going to find my own little townhome, or, you and I can move in together. And we thought about it, and we were like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense, because what sense does it make for me to go get my own extra little place, and then we get married, then we have to figure out what to do with those two places that I just got. So we decided to move in together, and that was an interesting adventure because, so we're both older. My parents laugh about this because they're like, you both are so settled in your own little ways. Y'all are just settled little people.
Well, what's your sign and what's his sign?
I'm an Aries, and what's December, early December? Is that Sag?
Yes, Sagittarius. Yeah.
He's a Sag. Yeah. So he's December 1st. So is that a fire sign? I don't know, but
I don't know.
Aries is.
Oh, I know Aries really well. I
feel
don't.
like everybody knows
Yeah, I know Aries really well. Sagittarians, I don't. They're sort of an anomaly to me, even though I had a boyfriend that was a Sagittarius.
Yeah, they're not as cool as us.
No, I don't think
No
so
offense to
either.
the-
I don't think so.
But yeah, he's a Sagittarius. So yeah, I moved into his place, which he's lived in since he's been in Atlanta, which is 2 decades now, and so it's a very, very settled there, and he wasn't planning on me moving in, so my little bitty 900 square foot apartment had fit into his 2,500 whatever square foot home. No room was made for me. It was just like we just packed it all up, and then we were like, we're gonna figure it out. So all my boxes ended up in his dining room. Like the dining room became a storage unit for a minute. And his office sits right across from that dining room in the front of the house. And so he was looking at those boxes every day, like, this is getting on my nerves. Like, when are you ever going to get rid of these boxes? So, then I spent all my time chucking through those boxes and trying to, make it not look like a storage unit anymore. And I did that. And then he was like, why is all your stuff? Then it was like,
Al, your stuff is everywhere.
yeah. And then I was, comparing kitchen, because I love to cook. I love beautiful food.
That's wonderful.
I'm like a Food Network junkie, that doesn't really work with fitness programs, but, and so one of the first things I wanted to do was sort out the kitchen. And so we had lots of duplicate stuff. And I was like, okay, well, here's your big mixing bowl. Here's my big mixing bowl. Like, do we really need 2? Because it only has so much covered space and all that. There's a bunch of merging places.
Right.
And
so you're both cooks. That's good.
Yeah, he can cook. He did cook recently. He's good. He's good, though. He's got... his mom's from New Orleans, and his dad was from Mississippi, but they grew up in LA. And so he's got all kind. He's just a little connoisseur of everything. So he can cook, though. That's good.
That is beautiful. That's beautiful. So you guys lived together in 2020, got married in 2021. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and we survived the pandemic together. So
yes, I mean
if we can make it through that as a couple, I feel like
because so many people didn't.
I know. That's another thing. I was like, this pandemic. The minute that pandemic hit, I was like, and people had to be on lockdown and they couldn't fly, and all the frequent flyers who are used to getting away from their spouse.
Yeah, it's so it's funny because I live alone, and so I would feel like, oh, I'm by myself. I'm so alone. And then I was watching this show Couples Therapy on Showtime, and they were featuring a couple that they were living in the house together and having issues, and they had kids, and I was like, I never thought about that, until I watched that. I didn't even think about people getting on each other's nerves.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And so everyone had their challenges. Like being alone has its challenges, right. And being with someone has its challenges during the pandemic and otherwise.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was definitely so many new challenges of the pandemic, plus being with someone in their physical space for the first time. So, yeah, I do think we survived that. We should be able to survive anything.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Well, I just really, really appreciate you being here in this conversation. And how can people get in touch with you?
It was fun. Yeah. Well, it was a fun, personable conversation. I would say follow my personal accounts. It's Andrea Theojohn, Theojohn. Andrea Theojohn on Instagram. I guess my best personal accounts would be my 40-Year-Old Bride. So there's a 40-Year-Old Bride YouTube channel.
Oh.
And there's a podcast for that. So.
40-Year-Old Bride.
Yes.
Yeah. Love it.
I did that because so many of us are waiting longer to get married.
Right.
And for so many reasons. But everything we ever see about brides and weddings are all geared towards the 20-somethings. And that makes sense because so many people do. But because so many more of us are waiting, or you got married and then got divorced and then are looking to remarry again in their 40s and beyond, that's just a different audience, a different subset of people. And I felt like we need a place where we can chat
Yeah.
that's
So
what that's
tell
for.
us about what's on your YouTube on that channel. What are you talking about everything you're doing as you're leading up to your wedding or?
It is wedding stuff. It was like a couple wedding things. For a minute, it was like wedding checklists, like here's all the stuff,
Yeah.
what you have to think about. But then it's also, I did interview a lady recently. She's a friend of mine who we went to Clemson together and we were both AKs. And she's a recent divorcee and she was talking about being divorced and getting out there and, dating again in her 40s with the intention of remarrying again.
Yeah.
And what all's involved with that and the struggles and the thought process and everything, how to feel sexy again and desirable and all those
Yes.
things. And mindset and spirituality is part of that. So it's some good stuff. She had some amazing nuggets. That was really cool.
Oh, I want to go see what she's talking about.
Karita Green.
And
Yeah,
you.
she's amazing.
Thank you so much, Andrea.
It's a pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Adrian. It was great chatting with you as always.
Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can listen to Let's Start Healing on traditional platforms. Until next time, let's start healing.